Call the meeting to order. Beth, please call the roll.
Mr. Bodie?
Here.
Mrs. Gebhardt?
Here.
Mr. Gousset?
Here.
Mrs. Matney?
Here.
Ms. Wasmith?
Present. All right, Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the first thing on the agenda is a public hearing for IDEA funds. What is that all? What is that?
Yeah.
So I'm glad you asked.
Okay.
Prior to the start of each school year, school districts are required to invite the general public to participate in a public hearing to provide an opportunity for public comment, including by individuals with disabilities and parents of children with disabilities, on how the school district plans to spend its IDEA B funds for special education. In addition to presenting a spending plan for these funds, the hearing must include an opportunity for public comment and input from program participants and parents regarding the usage of these funds. I will now provide information on the spending plan for Part B funds for special education, and a copy of the district spending plan will be entered into the minutes for this meeting. Following my presentation will be an opportunity for public comment and input. In accordance with federal grant regulations, the district receives federal Title I, Title II-A, and Special Education IDEA Part B funds each year. As part of the federal grant requirements, the district provides the following information regarding each grant to the public: a description of the purpose of each grant and the services provided eligible students. Title I, improving basic programs used to provide reading intervention services. Title II-A, supporting effective instruction used to help maintain small class sizes. IDEA Part B, special education, used to provide special education intervention services. In total, the IDEA Part B grant funds for the 2023-24 are estimated at $236,773.41. As part of the grant requirements, the public is given the opportunity to provide input on how the district intends to use these funds for the 2023-24 school year. If anyone would like to provide input to the district on how we are using these funds for this coming school year, now would be your opportunity. And this is an annual requirement that we have to do. In essence, I would only share to the board how we're using these funds is very commensurate with how we used them in the two previous districts that I was in, and pretty standard. And Rob and Beth, myself, Angie work together along with our staff to ensure that these are closest to where learning is happening with students.
It doesn't require any kind of vote or anything like that.
Nope.
It's just a hearing. Okay.
Just allows the public to comment. Yep.
Then we'll move on to minutes. Is there a motion for the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any comments or questions? Then Beth, please call the roll.
Mr. Bodie?
Aye.
Mrs. Gebhardt?
Aye.
Mr. Gousset?
Aye.
Mrs. Matney?
Aye.
Ms. Wasmith?
Aye. Okay, recognition of guests and hearing of the public. Does anyone like to speak? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the next. Building and department reports. Anything to add there? Superintendent's report.
Well, I just want to, big picture, take an opportunity to say that we've had a very busy and productive summer in preparing for this school year, and believe it or not, I'm starting my 10th year, which you may believe, I can't. That aside, I share that with you more to say that I feel more prepared with this amazing team and staff than I ever have. And I'm very, very excited about this school year. Hard also to believe that teachers' first day back is Friday, convocation is Monday, and students return on Tuesday. Wanted to also just say that tomorrow, ironically, we have our third and final scheduled master plan with Perkins and Will for Stevenson Elementary, and that the culmination and outcomes of that will be presented to the board either at an October or November board meeting, and that will include parallel pricing estimations as well. I would envision perhaps that before that board meeting where Perkins and Will presents, the board considers some type of work session for an hour to preview the outcome and provide feedback before the final plan is presented more broadly. One of the major transitions behind the scenes is implementation of the PowerSchool student information system. I will say a shout out to Denise McGee, Jamie, and Chris for all of their work and his team in making that transition. It is a big deal. You know, not on here, but I wanted to mention we have inked formally, oh my goodness, Harry Miller. So Harry Miller has kind of done the tour. He's been on the Today Show. He's been on, you know, major national news on mental health and sports. And the date is November 13th, and it's in the evening at 7 o'clock in the high school auditorium. And the vision for that is to ensure that all of our 7-12 athletes and coaches are present. And assuming that we have additional seats available, which I will open it up more broadly to our community to attend. And I'm very excited about this opportunity. I do think mental health today more broadly is a challenge. I also think it is a challenge for athletes, our student athletes as well. And Harry Miller is exceedingly intelligent and articulate and has a really powerful message. And the fact that he played, he's a really large, like I'm going to say 6'6", tall, strong, articulate, handsome man. And for him to talk about the challenges that he faced with mental health, I think it could be really impactful to our student population. So I'm very excited about that as well. And that's all that I have.
Okay, great. Any questions from anyone? Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Andy. All right, moving on to construction. Mr. Tadina. Am I hearing that this is perhaps the last time that you speak before us? For now.
For now.
For now.
We'll say for now. I think Colleen might be joining me. She might be coming in a little bit. But, yeah, so three things to talk about tonight. First, just business. You know, there are a few lingering items that will happen after the school year starts. There's two really nice benches that go along the concrete along both sides of the promenade there that really nice, they're sort of like the outdoor learning area benches, but they're mobile, or I guess, but those will be here, and they're supposed to be here this week, so we hear, but they may linger. But any of those items outside or inside, a couple more site furnishings. I think we've added a bike rack and a couple of trash cans, a camera on the pole outside by the playground. Those are going to happen in due time, and we'll just work around the school schedule so we don't impact school activities. But any of those remaining items, we'll just coordinate with Jim. And, you know, he has our number, and we're not going away, so we'll be there for those. I guess lastly, the grass will fill in. I mean, both projects, ours and the city, as you can see, it's kind of what happens when you plant grass in August and July, even though we've had a pretty mild one and the grass is coming in somewhat. It'll fill in. It'll look beautiful after it goes through a cycle, so we just have to be a little bit patient with that. Secondly, you know, just a recap of the overall project. I interviewed with Andy, and I don't know if anyone else was in on that. Beth, were you in on that interview? And Eric in December of 2018. So it's been almost 5 years. It's pretty crazy, and the project took on some curveballs and some unforeseens like our industry and school districts and our country's never seen before. So throughout all of that, we've had some tough pricing discussions, and we've had some sleepless nights for schedule. But when you look back on it, we're really, really proud of the quality of the building that you have here, and the care that was put into it, and all of our tradesmen and women, and foreman that really worked hard. And so as a recap, we just look at it as a successful, quality building that you're going to love for years to come. And then lastly, I'll say that I wanted to take a moment to talk a little bit about gratitude. You could have hired anyone. You could have hired, and there are a lot of qualified construction management companies out there, and you hired us, and for that, I know that if Chris and Colleen and CK and Elford were all standing here, we would all say that we're just extremely grateful that you hired us. And for me, you know, not only because of the opportunity that we created to show what we could do, but the relationships that we've made with each of you throughout the past 5 years is something that I'll take away throughout the rest of my career. It truly is a place of belonging, and it's because of the trust that you had in us, and you know, just very grateful that that you had that and you made it that kind of an experience for us. To the students and the staff and the neighbors and the communities and anyone listening in, they were disrupted for 3.5 years, and they sacrificed their daily routines and so that we could do this, and so we're grateful for that. I'm grateful for my team, Colleen and Chris. They're what a cool trio that we had, and I'm glad that they were our partners and that we never had one moment of questioning to do the right thing, and we were just aligned from the very beginning for that. You know, Chris Dice, Beth, this whole team, Jim, just great people, and we're glad that we got to be partners with them. But you know, Andy, for you personally, you know, I learned a lot from you. I learned a lot about being a servant leader and about being genuine and creating an atmosphere of positivity and finding positivity in all of those different sorts of conversations that we had. It just seemed like that we were a team throughout the whole thing, and so I just want to thank you personally for that. It means a lot. So, you know, with that, we're excited about how this building is going to be used for years to come, and that it's going to serve this amazing community. And so thank you for all of that and giving me a platform just to share those thoughts, and this means a lot. So thank you.
Good stuff, Jay.
Yeah.
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 Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
So any questions on cost or punch list items or anything like that, I can answer.
Hey, here she is.
Oh,
Or
here
what's
comes
not
Colleen.
Yeah, let's not be done before she gets in here.
She has an excuse. I'm not going to say what it is.
Yeah, no one is. No one's going to say a word.
No one should ever say
good.
no.
So now you get
Great
to
timing, right?
you get to answer all the stuff
Never
that I blamed
early.
on you. Just
Oh,
now.
excellent. Eric wanted
He did
to
a
ask
really
about
amazing job, Colleen.
lighting,
You'd have been very proud.
He did. He did.
as always.
So
Well,
anyway,
I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you for all the great job. You know, I've been involved with school construction for a long time, and I know a lot of projects go south in big ways and small ways, and not only in terms of the building and, you know, what gets built, but also the whole relationships that, you know, I've seen a lot of projects where board members get voted out, where, you know, school officials lose their job, where people are at ends with each other, and I would say the opposite really here has happened, that this has been a catalyst, not just for having a great building, but really helping us as a district and as a team. It's been a really positive thing, so it takes kind of special leadership to make that happen. Some years ago, I was with a friend of mine from Southern Ohio, and he was describing somebody else giving him praise, saying he knows how to keep all the frogs in the wheelbarrow. I thought that was a good phrase. I think that's what you guys do. Somehow, keep all the frogs in the wheelbarrow, keep track of everything, kept it going, and I really appreciate that. It's been a good project.
thank you.
That's been.
And sorry, Doug Addis. Also, thank you. A lot of guidance along the way, behind the scenes that you all didn't see. That Doug was, gave us got a lot of advice, and has been a great partner as well. So.
We feel really fortunate to have had your leadership, both of you. So, thank you so much. And I came in after what was I elected? I came in 2020, right before COVID. And, you know, I've been really impressed along the way, you guys. This is a great product, so thank you both.
So, yeah.
And to you, Doug, as well. Thank you.
Yeah, I was thinking about coming to this board meeting today, thinking about, I was trying to go find my notes from when we were meeting to do the interview for this, and I couldn't find, I don't know why, I couldn't find them. Me of all people, I couldn't find them. But I remember specifically when we got the email that the ballot had passed and that we were going to be interviewing together, like, they said, would you be interested in this project? And I was like, yes, please, like, I wanna be on this one, because we knew it was gonna be a community project, and honored to have been selected with Jay to be your project team. It's not very often that you see a 3.5-year project that the entire project team stays the same from the interview all the way through. So it's been an honor to work with all of you since 2018, since we've been involved. I know you guys have been involved a lot longer than that, but it's been great. I'm gonna miss you guys.
It's sad, like, I mean, it feels like you guys are like part of the team, right? So it's like
Yeah.
somebody leaving, so you're gonna be missed. You guys can just drop by just for fun sometime.
Yeah.
We will, yeah.
When I have the recognition of the public, just get up and say something.
Well, Haley already told me I have to come back at some time in after
What's the next
September,
project?
after September 21st.
Yeah.
I'm currently working on the Girl Scouts STEM Center on their
Wow.
Ken Jockety summer campus in Galloway.
I'm actually kind of supporting all of our K-12 projects now, so all of our lessons learned over the past 5 years, I get to use those and put those to good use and help other teams make sure that hopefully we continue to serve customers and build relationships like we have here.
Get a photo.
Yes.
Love
And
that.
Doug, you can get in. We'd like for you, no, we want you
Oh,
in
we
it
want
as
you in
well.
it, yeah.
And you know, on behalf, for what, I'll be brief, just thank you so much. It's been a true journey and pleasure working with both of you and Chris. And, you know, boy, did we get it right. What a great team, what a great experience. This is my first time doing something like this on this scale as superintendent. And, you know I speak for Beth and the entire board to say, you know, one of the things I'm most proud of is what I can guarantee is there's always going to be problems in any construction project, but how you work together as a team to solve them is the true test, and I think we did that well.
Totally agree. Thank you.
Cool.
What's our backdrop, Haley?
Y'all built it, so.
Wherever you want.
Maybe we'll
Go
go
over there.
here?
Whiteboard.
Some of the building.
Oh, boy. I like squeezy.
Do you want to be next to Colleen, or are you good? Do you want to use my phone?
My iPhone too.
Good deal.
Good luck to you guys.
Thank you.
Good luck, Colleen.
Yeah, that's actually the next project.
Your friends don't live with me anymore. I won't.
I know. Well, they just live down the
Yeah,
block.
they're in Glen now, right? So.
Yeah.
I mean, I still see them sometimes.
thank you.
So,
Yeah.
like, they come around.
Well, yeah, I'm sure, like I said, Haley already told me I have to bring the baby at some point. So
Yes.
I'm sure,
Well, she's probably going to have another shower. Believe me. She's probably going to adopt you.
I need a grandchild in town.
her daughter and I are the same age. So.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, I miss holding babies too, so I'd love to hold a baby anytime you need some.
We'll get all the shots and we'll bring them around.
Drop it off at board meeting.
Yeah, next board meeting. Bye, guys.
Thanks, Colleen.
Hi. Okay, well, I guess we have to move on. Core team committee report. So I unfortunately missed the last one. I was at a child's doctor appointment. Eric, do you have?
Yeah, so Sorry, just pulling up my notes here. Which I know I have. Oh, here we go.
It's a really memorable one, huh?
Yeah, it was a very short one, actually.
Yeah.
When
Very.
we had, yeah. Go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about grass, and in essence, in the event that we aren't satisfied with how the grass does turn out, Elford and the CKE team are committed to making it right, period. The playground has passed its final inspection, so it's fully usable. We talked about 2 other items that aren't part of the project, but more things to put on the board's radar. And that is, over time, we'd like to make the front landscape of this building look similar to the high school. And then secondarily, if you've noticed the steps entering the high school gym off of Oakland, and the railings, it's kind of janky. It needs, at some point, probably some attention. So we discussed that, and we do have plans and quotes for both of doing both of those things.
So I got asked on the landscaping piece, because I couldn't quite remember either. So there was nothing else budgeted to do, like the little like shrubs or anything in front of this school?
So that's exactly correct. So that's what we discussed, and it's not in this project, although while I don't have a crystal ball, I'm relatively confident, although I'm a little over my skis, Beth could talk more intelligently about it, that we'll have a budget surplus at the end of this project that will go into our permanent improvement fund, and we could choose to use that surplus, whatever it is. My sense is it's certainly going to be more than, well, I won't say amount, to do likely both of those projects if we wanted, based on my understanding of costs.
And similarly, then so basically the landscaping as it stands right now is the final for phase 3 of the project?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes, the landscaping, yes.
Okay, because I thought I remembered there being something else going over here too, like on the side of the building before you get to the gym, and there's not anything there either.
No,
so.
and even, we've even discussed, yes, I agree, but also on the east side of Oakland where the outdoor learning center is up against the building, I think there could even, we boxwoods or something up against that. It goes grass building.
Yeah.
It's gotten better, or maybe I've gotten more used to it.
It has gotten better,
but I think perhaps something there over time, and incrementally and over time, these are things we did discuss. We also did discuss that the surplus budget and the budget would go into the permanent improvement fund. So that's where it goes.
That makes sense. Oh gosh, I had another question. Oh, the grass. At the start of the school year, what is the plan for, foot traffic on the grass as we start the school year? Because, they'll have the ability to use the playground, but I know for a while the grass has been roped off and it was going to stay roped off for some time.
And it's going to need to.
So how is recess going to go?
Yeah, so I know that Jim Buffer and Sean and Matt Wyan have had those discussions. I know that they, as you said, will have access to the basketball court, mosh pit, playground, and foursquare area, along with perhaps the benches and seating area. Now, as you know also, I know you know because you all have, well, not you, Eric, but everyone else had kids in the Larson Middle School. We went over to the K-12 athletic complex, so that is obviously still available. It's obviously, I think I speak for everyone in this room, including myself, along with Sean, Matt, and probably every Larson Middle Schooler. Maybe the preference would be to just use this and not go there, but likely in the foreseeable future, that will continue. Not likely, that will continue.
Yeah.
Now, is it 3 months? Is it,
Till spring? Or
yeah, I don't have a good sense right now. I will tell you, I'm more optimistic today, just in a layman's assessment of the grass setting taking hold than I was even a month ago. So just as a layman observing it, it is catching hold, but it's going to be a bit.
Will they do, is there any plan to do any kind of overseeding in the fall, like in the front of the high school or anything like that?
Yeah, so those were part of the discussions that we had with Jay. And he is committed to giving, if that's something that we feel we need, they will do that.
I saw that there'd been like some small, like, seeding done in the tree lawn or whatever you want to call it, which is good because they needed it.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see how fall goes.
Yeah, we'll
how
see.
stuff comes
We'll
in.
see.
Okay. Any other questions?
I think that pretty much covers it.
Yeah, I think, did you mention that the playground got inspected and that passed, but there was some
Yeah,
issues
and those have been
Joe was
resolved.
following up.
So is the playground complete?
It is.
Yeah, it's exciting. I know I was a little bit worried about, like, on a hot day, it's pretty hot and not shady. And I saw that you were maybe exploring the idea of a shade, which I would love. I don't know the price of it, of course,
A
but
sale.
So interestingly, that is
Yeah.
something else we did discuss. So I asked Jim to take a look at, there's many elementary schools in particular that have these man-made, like tent tarp, but they're pretty hardy structures with like picnic tables underneath them. I'm not a designer, but they look, I think, nice as well. I mean, it's not like a pop-up tent kind of thing. And so he has looked into those and gotten quotes
okay.
for that as well. I could potentially, again, incrementally and over time, envision something like that out here, and also maybe over in the outdoor learning
Parts of
center
the
area.
learning. It'd be nice to have just some areas of shade, just to make one, to be more comfortable, but two, like, I know we have family history of skin cancer and fair skin. It's like you want to just be mindful of
Totally.
sun exposure, and so, okay. Okay. Oh, and you said when we're still exploring the idea of some, taking care of some white walls.
I'm glad you asked, yes. So one of the other things that we are getting proposals for, and I envision that we'll have proposals from Perkins and Will as well as M&A. So Carrie Boyd is a community member, and she does this kind of thing for a living, to do a master plan for the 412 campus of that, branding, marketing, interior design, logoing, maybe a historical wall, trip down Grandview Heights Schools, memory lane with pictures in certain areas. So at that level of detail and cost, that once we have that master plan, then we can do that also incrementally and over time.
Yep, yep.
I'm glad you asked that. Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's good. I know it's been it's been something that's been talked about for a while, but make this place feel a little less generic. Okay. Moving on to the treasurer's presentation.
Okay, so we have not met since June, so I have a few highlights from ending our fiscal year 23 as of the end of June, and then a few updates where we are in July so far. So just a quick recap of fiscal year 23. Our revenues ended about 4.7% over our budget, and our expenses were about 1% over our budget. Interestingly, the expenses were within about $1,800 of the cost of the insurance claim, the flood that we had to pay for and then get reimbursed for. So our expenses were higher than normal for that insurance claim, and then revenues were as well. So revenues exceeded our expenditures by about 1.2 million, which is great. So our budget was about 400,000. We expected revenues to be about $400,000 higher, and a couple reasons why they ended up being better than expected. Our Grandview Yard TIF revenue continues to be strong. Our projections are based on Baker Tilly's work. There are still some unknowns, so they budget, with a conservative approach, and the actual revenue is coming in over even what their projections are. And then, interestingly, interest revenue in fiscal year 22 was about 130,000. For 23, 447,000. So we were really able to take advantage of the increase in interest rates over the last 6 months or so. And then also, as our cash balance has grown over the last few years, we have a bigger principal balance to invest. And so I work pretty close with our rep from Meter Investments. In fact, I just met with him about a week ago and added about an additional $1 million into that U.S. bank account. So, you know, part of his role is kind of looking down the road. The interest rates are great right now. Star Ohio, our liquid account, is about 5.5%. So we're doing fantastic with funds just in that liquid account. But what he does also is study what's going on with the Federal Reserve and what is coming down the pike. So what we want to do at this point, our strategy is, in his mind, we're getting close to kind of the peak of that, and rates, you know, not sure exactly when, but will start going down in time. And what we want to do is have our investments, you know, staggered but locked into some of those longer rates. So Star Ohio will be quick to drop as rates drop, but if we have our funds locked into longer term investments, then we'll maximize our interest revenue. So so that was a great you know, unanticipated revenue increase for fiscal year 23. And then the other thing I think that's notable is our food service fund. You know, only the second year in a long time, we didn't have to subsidize that fund, and it's still kind of living off that carryover balance from the 2 years when every student got a free breakfast and lunch, so that extra subsidy. So overall, a fantastic fiscal year financially. The Finance Committee met actually just July 31st, Monday the 31st, and we did review some of the financial results from fiscal year 23 as well. So this slide just kind of shows just a little bit of history, the last 7 years. If you look at the dark blue bar, that is the fund balance, the unreserved portion of our general fund balance. So the red is our budget reserve that is set by board policy, and the yellow that you can see starting in 2019 is when we renegotiated the Grandview Yard agreement and we got additional funding, and that is the portion of that additional funding that it's in the general fund, but it's in a separate sub account so that we're not spending it. It's reserved or set aside. So, you know, like I said, we had, the last several years, we've had strong TIF revenue since we've renegotiated, strong interest revenue this year, strong tax base, and over the last couple years, you know, the additional ESSER funds have really helped us. So you can see the pretty steady increase in our cash balance. So anyway, that's a great story to share. So wanted to share that. So kind of moving forward then to the end of July. So our revenue, we are really right on target with where we expect to be at the end of July. We got some tax advances. They're almost identical to the advances we had at this time last year. The final settlement will be coming later this month, and that's when we'll get our property tax allocation and our Grandview Yard revenue as well. And then interest for July was just over $58,000 in our general fund. So that's, you know, again, great news. Expenditures, 9.4% of our budget so far. That's just a hair over our fiscal year to date where we would expect to be. But that's because the big expense in July is the health insurance HSA deposits for all of our employees. So health insurance is one line item where you see it's over budget in month one, and over the course of the year it gets closer and closer and closer to our budget throughout the year. So so this is typical for July, that we're a little bit over because of that. Investments, you can see I talked about the interest rates there. Construction fund, we're definitely winding down. July interest about $8,700, and we're really kind of reaching the tail end of that cash balance and the interest that we have been able to earn. As of the end of July, we hit over the $2 million mark, net of the investment fees. So that's really great news. I think our original target was 1.7 million. And as interest rates really climbed over the last 6 months, that was really the period of time where our investments were maturing and the money was going into the liquid account. So the timing was really almost perfect for when, those dollars were invested at lower rates, and most of that money matured right about the time the interest rates really went up. So over the last 6 months or so, in particular, we've been able to really maximize the interest revenue in that Star Ohio account. So our fund balance, about 1.5 million. Soft costs, we're at about 91%. Most of the soft costs that remain are some final billing from Moody Nolan. Actually, the playground equipment is another thing that's pending. Construction cost, almost 99%. So again, we're down to about $1.6 million balance. The PI fund, nothing new here. Unencumbered balance is about 309,000. That's after setting aside money for the 3 projects listed there. And then as I mentioned, the Finance Committee met, and we reviewed we call it a 5-year budget. It's 4 right now, and we'll be adding the 5th year this year throughout the year. So the committee did look at that PI budget. And then interestingly, you can see on these facility funding sources where all those donations, all those contributions we got from the different sources have been completely used now. So the payments that I made in July used up the balance of the Education Foundation money and the city money that we got. So all those additional sources are completely spent, and we've got the 1.5 million in the construction fund. So that's all I've got. If there's any questions.
Any questions? Okay, great. Is there a Finance Committee report?
A few things, so all of that Beth just talked about. We talked about the reappraisal, that some first indicators of overall increases. I think the figures were the county average went up 34% in the last 3 years, and Grandview was up 17%, which was actually the lowest in the county. And then, but as Beth is very accurate and swift to point out, that does not mean that that's the increase that taxpayers will see, but there is some increase. I think it was just over 2% for both the Grandview Heights and Marble Cliff residents from the inside millage increase, so a small amount. But then also, it's hard to, everyone's a little different, and depending on how much yours went up compared to others, and because others in the county went up higher, that county-wide revenue levies, like for the MRDD or for the zoo or whatever else, our share in Grandview might actually go down. So hard to say what exactly the overall effect of that would be.
Yeah, the hardest thing to predict is the county. So with the reappraisal, it's kind of a shift. So if county-wide, like Eric said, the average is 34%. Well, if in terms of those county levies, Children's Services, Adam H., Board Zoo, if everybody's property went up exactly 17%, then that share of those county levies would stay the same for everybody. Well, the properties that are going up considerably more than ours are going to take on more of those levies. So what we're going to see, anybody whose property in Grandview increased less than the average in the county, 34%, is going to see a reduction in those county tax levies. So then on a smaller scale, on just the Grandview scale, the average in our local city school district levies or property value increases was 17%. So if Emily's house value goes up exactly the average 17, then her local taxes would go up about 2.3%. Let's say that Molly's house goes up 25%, she's going to see more than that average 2.3. And let's say Kevin's goes up maybe only 10% instead of the average of 17, his taxes are actually going to go down. So as Eric mentioned, if everybody's value increase was exactly the average, we could predict what's going to happen. But your taxes will depend on how your value increase compares to the average Grandview increase. So, yeah.
I think the one other thing that we talked about was, Andy, you had mentioned a board meeting, maybe a special meeting, to talk about the plan for Stevenson. And we've been, in the Finance Committee, working on some options for looking at how to raise that money and how to present that on the ballot. So I think, when we do that, it's not just the kind of building, planning, and siting side, but also the finance side. Look forward to that discussion.
I have a quick question I forgot to ask earlier. It looks to me like that AEP property is at a standstill. You heard anything about that?
I have not heard anything. I'll follow up though and see if there's any
I'm
news.
just curious, because I know we had already said that their original prediction of when they were gonna be done, that's not going to happen.
Right.
But it looked like they cleared everything down, it looked like they were really moving, and then it's
And they
just stopped.
Right.
Yeah, and so I was just curious, like.
Yeah,
what-
I've not heard anything, but I will follow up with Marble Cliff and see if they
Yeah.
have heard any updates. So the latest information I had, which is probably from 4 or 5 months ago, was that they expect to have most of it done by the end of this calendar year, and then 100% completely finished by next April. But as, that's a really good point, Emily, that nothing has taken place over the last how many months?
Right.
So, yep, I'll see if the mayor or finance director have any information on it.
Yeah, and obviously you don't have it like plugged into any kind of like future predictions or I shouldn't say predictions, but forecasted, so it's, it's not like we're relying on it at this point, but still.
So I do have estimates in our 5-year forecast, but using next year as the completion year.
Okay, so you put it a year ahead of what they originally said.
A year later than what they had told me as what I originally
A year later is what I
projected,
meant,
so,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
I guess while we're on the topic, the Eddington, do we have any contact with them in terms of their progress on their project? And when we might see traffic coming out of their parking lot onto Fairview?
Or life in the building.
I don't have any
Or
information on that.
the fences are off of the
Yeah.
sidewalk now, but if they wanted to put them back up, they don't have to contact us at all, right?
I don't know.
Because it's a completely separate project from the school, so we don't have any sort of interface.
Well, yes and no. I think Chris Tayo, our superintendent, boots on the ground daily, did have weekly contact with the superintendent of that project.
Okay.
And periodically, I would just randomly, hey, how's it going with Eddington? Any updates? And he would generally know. Now, he's not, I don't know that he's boots on the ground every day anymore, and so I haven't gotten an update in a while. I did ask him, I'm going to say 2 weeks ago, we were walking out here doing a punch list tour of the site plan, and he said that it isn't close to being done, but they're further along than they were a while ago. I think generally it seems that I don't think this is new news. It just doesn't seem to be going very fast.
No. Okay. All right.
Yep.
But I will follow up with Chris and include that in my board update.
It would just be nice to know, well, and I suppose we'll probably all see it, but it'd be nice to know when people start living there. But
Right.
I think many of us walk by it frequently and can tell that it's not
Yeah.
happening
Not happening anytime
soon.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
at least to start school.
Yeah. I think that they may have broken ground before we started
It was similar, because I remember
the new building.
Right.
it's similar. The bottom floor of it, if you look in the windows, has weeds that are chest high growing on the floor of the. So it doesn't look like people are moving in tomorrow. So, I don't know, it's just slow.
Yeah.
All right.
Kind of makes you feel a little like, oh, we're so far along.
But it's a true, I mean, I don't know
Yeah.
anything about their situation, but when you guys were talking about how things could go south on construction projects, like,
Yeah.
you just talked about two where it's like,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to know, like, other people's situations.
yeah, we're lucky.
Okay. Well, we're moving on to business and finance C recommendations for approval. So we have C 1 through, oh gosh, there's a lot. C 1 through 19. Oh my goodness. Is there a motion to approve C 1 through 19?
So moved.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions?
Did want to point out number 6, where we are voting to waive school fees, athletic fees, and kindergarten tuition fees again,
That's great.
having that.
How many years have we done that? It's gotta be like 10. Oh, is it 5?
Six.
Okay.
5, 6.
5, 6.
Something like that, yeah.
Kindergarten's just 2.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
kindergarten
yeah,
is
yeah.
just since the pandemic.
Kindergarten, yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess so. We waived it in the pandemic, but that was like a little bit different. Then they officially waived it forevermore. It's been 2 years. Yeah, that was honestly, I felt like that was a really good thing that was done a couple years ago for kindergarten. And I'm glad you pointed it out. And for all of you.
Yeah.
Please.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, well, if there are no more questions, then Beth, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Bodie?
Aye.
Mrs. Gebhardt?
Aye.
Mr. Gousset?
Aye.
Mrs. Matney?
Aye.
Ms. Wassman?
Aye.
All right, moving on to personnel. We have A 1 through 13. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments?
Procedurally,
Yes?
if your student, if your child is on one of the teams and the coach is being approved, is that an abstention? Okay. I didn't know. I didn't know.
Good question.
Who's your husband?
I have one.
Or, or your son was a coach?
I was like, oh,
Yeah, sorry. I really, anyway,
you're fine.
insert foot in
Just-
mouth.
No, I was like, where are you going with this, Andy?
I really wasn't going anywhere. I just was, for example.
Could
Like
be
it's-
wife, don't assume things.
Yeah, right. I'm
Be
not,
anything.
exactly.
Andy, thank you for that moment.
Okay, I think it's time to move on to a vote. Beth, could you please call the roll?
Mr. Bodie?
Aye.
Mrs. Gebhardt?
Aye.
Mr. Gousset?
Aye.
Mrs. Matney?
Aye.
Ms. Wassmuth?
Aye.
Is there a policy committee report?
Nope, we didn't meet.
No report. Okay, so we do have recommendations for, these we're on the final reading for this policies. They had their first reading at our last meeting in June.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, is there a motion to approve those board policies?
So moved.
Nobody wants to second today. Anyone want a second?
Second.
Are there any questions or comments on the policies? Okay, Beth, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Bodie?
Aye.
Mrs. Gebhardt?
Aye.
Mr. Gousset?
Aye.
Mrs. Matney?
Aye.
Ms. Wassmuth?
Aye.
I will just make one comment, more as an FYI. Sean Hinkle has facilitated and led that process for this committee now for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, 4 years. And he is going to work with Matt Wyan for this round, and maybe one more, but I don't know that he will need to this round, and then turn the keys over to Matt. Matt's going to take that over, which would be a great experience for him as well. Just more as an FYI.
Well, I know everyone thinks that Sean has done a wonderful job, and I'm sure
He
that
has.
Mr. Wyan will also do a wonderful job.
Yes.
Okay, is there a teaching and learning committee report?
No, we didn't meet.
We did not. I do want to say one thing, though, because it is my plan, or our plan, to put the board presentation proposed schedule and have a discussion about that with the Teaching and Learning Committee, and then bring it back to the entire board for additional feedback.
I like that idea.
That's a full year of all the different departments that'll present?
Correct.
Okay, great. And when do you think you'll share that?
The
For next
first,
meeting?
well, yeah, so I will share it, we will share it at the first Teaching and Learning Committee. which I can't remember when it's scheduled.
that been
Angie
added?
sent out invites for all of that already.
did?
And I cannot remember when our first meeting is. We have a draft.
September
And
11th.
we have a draft, and quite frankly, in my judgment, the first two presentations are pretty fixed.
I'm sorry, you said September 11th? What time? I'm sorry, no, never mind. Maybe I should just look at my calendar. I can look. That's all right, that's all right.
I think they start at like 3:30.
I have a lot of schedule updating to do, so it's fine.
Okay, okay, so under curriculum and instruction, we have, recommendations for approval, B1. Is there a motion to approve that? The middle school career tech ed waiver.
I'll move it.
I'll second.
I had a question myself on this. I know we do this annually, it's required. I was just curious, are there many other districts that provide career tech for 7th and 8th graders? Is it common or no? No.
I can't honestly tell you if it's common or not, but smaller districts do not. It depends on, you have to be hooked to a career center, and most are not. I mean, we have a career center, but we don't have programming for
I'm
middle
unaware
school.
of any middle school that's doing it.
Yeah, I mean, it was never
I mean,
something
just to lend
certainly
some
I was
perspective.
exposed to in 7th, 8th grade. I was just
So things we are doing for career tech, even though we don't have a career tech model tied to a career center, we are doing career fairs. I did get money to bring in career speakers, and School Links has now a new career focus for middle school. So we'll use those as ways to enhance that curriculum in the middle school.
Just curious, I mean, it's hard to ever know the history of the revised code section that requires a waiver for this. Why exactly, where that comes from, but probably never know. Okay. Any other questions? Beth, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Bodie?
Aye.
Mrs. Gephardt?
Aye.
Mr. Gusset?
Aye.
Mrs. Matney?
Aye.
Ms. Wassman?
Aye.
Okay, under co-curricular activities and extracurricular activities, there is a recommendation to approval just A1, I guess, volunteers, a volunteer list. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Are there any questions or comments? Beth, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Bodie?
Aye.
Mrs. Gephardt?
Aye.
Mr. Gusset?
Aye.
Mrs. Matney?
Aye.
Ms. Wassman?
Aye.
Okay, under other recommendations, we have the OSBA delegates. If I could ask for procedurally, do we have this discussion about who we want to name as delegates before we get in? I mean, typically, we would ask for a motion to approve before we have discussion. But since there's no one listed there, do we have to have the discussion first, or which
So-
come first?
Yeah, so typically, somebody throws out a name or somebody volunteers to do it,
Yeah.
and then, or makes.
So we have that discussion before we have the motions too. Okay, okay.
Yeah,
So,
I think generally seeing if anyone's interested
Yeah.
first.
is anyone interested? I mean, I
Volunteers.
I think Molly's done it before. I think, were you at last year?
I did it last year.
So we need a delegate and alternate for the Capitol Conference. I mean, I've never been a delegate, and really the main role of the delegate is that there's a delegate meeting or conference. What is the, main thing the delegate does? All of us are allowed to go and participate, but what is the role of the delegate?
So they vote on the platform, the OSBA platform.
Right. Anyone interested in doing it? I'm on the legislative platform committee, and we have our meeting on Saturday for the thing that goes before the delegates too.
I have not.
Mr. Bodie has not taken a turn.
Hard for me to commit to going with my work schedule.
Yeah.
Myself included. Did you say you were going to be there anyway?
Well, so I would assume that,
Separate one.
so I'm a member of the legislative platform committee of OSBA. So we vote on the platform that ultimately goes before the delegates. So I will be there, our meeting is this Saturday at OSBA.
This, okay.
And so this is the development of the platform that then goes. I don't think there's anything that precludes me from serving
And voting
on both. I don't I wouldn't mind not doing it, frankly.
Yeah, yeah.
But if nobody else wants to do it, I would do
Well,
it.
I mean, do we have to go to every session?
No.
Yeah.
This is just the
voting
delegate
part.
voting part. It is not the sessions. It's not
I'll
the
do it,
lunch.
I'll do it again. I enjoyed, we had a luncheon that I thought was interesting, and
I like going to the
I
luncheon.
had to leave early last year for something, I don't remember why, but, I like the voting part, I thought that was really cool.
The
I don't,
voting, yeah, that's it.
I don't mind doing it again.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I don't mind being the alternate unless you'd like to be the alternate. But I do enjoy going. I do usually go to the luncheon, and I usually go to a couple sessions, but I'm never there like the whole time.
Yeah, I could do that.
The luncheon is, I
Yeah.
I think the luncheon is very nice.
Well, and I had to miss
Legitimately. And
the
usually
head
they have a
speaker.
nice speaker. and-
Yeah,
I think, who is it this time? It's
don't know.
another famous, I want to say it's
Famous actress.
Mary Steenburgen? No, maybe
Yes.
something like that. Something like that.
totally will be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was John
What?
Lithgow
You
last
had the
year.
same reaction last year.
I know.
I can't remember who it was, but you were like, yeah, and you were like, yes.
Yes, and then I don't think I could stay for him for
Yeah,
some reason, I
yeah.
don't remember. I was bummed about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mary Steenburgen, I will be there. Happy to do it for the children. And the swag. I got really good
Yep, yep,
bags of
yep.
the vendors, yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
boy.
that was a good time, it's coming back to me.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, you can get a lot of stuff from
Yeah,
those.
lot
that
of
vendor
stuff.
hall is huge.
I still
All
have the
worth less
reusable
than
bag in my
$25.
car.
Oh, for heaven's sakes, yes.
Okay, so we have Katie Matney as delegate and alternate. Would you like to be alternate, or do you want me to do it? I think you liked doing it.
I do,
guess
but
not.
I've done it for 4 years.
Okay, then
Yeah,
Emily
I have to
Gephardt.
take time off work as teachers, that
A
would
little
be
bit.
complicated.
I'll
I mean,
go
I have to
after,
take time
I
off
will
work.
pick up my servitude after Eric goes. Yeah, I'm serving the people.
Okay, so for the delegates, for the Capitol Conference, we have delegate Katie Matney, alternate delegate Emily Gephardt. Okay. Great. Okay, so, Beth, can you please
right.
call the roll? I think they have somewhere to be.
Is there a second?
I think
Oh, you
Kevin
did, okay. All right, Mr. Bodie.
Aye.
Mrs. Gebhardt.
Aye.
Mr. Gousset.
Aye.
Mrs. Matney.
Aye.
And Ms. Wasmuth.
Aye.
Okay, so we have section 16, actions by the Board of Ed. So do we have to vote on A and B separately?
No.
No, we can do that collectively.
Yes.
Okay, this is just it was just a cleanup thing in the contract to make it what we actually thought we were voting on. So do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Beth, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Bodie?
Aye.
Mrs. Gebhardt?
Aye.
Mr. Gousset?
Aye.
Mrs. Matney?
Aye.
Ms. Wasmuth?
Aye.
Okay, any other items for discussion?
Quick question.
Yeah.
The platform that the school is switching to, we're getting rid of Progress Book. What's the name of the new platform and when will it be rolled out?
Chris Dice is the expert on this question and has forgotten more about it than I know.
It's Mary Steenburgen.
Yeah.
Yes.
What did she say?
Mary Steenburgen.
Yeah, she was
Oh,
confirming.
look at Hazel.
Married to who?
Ted
At
Danson.
dancing. I want to be at the
It's
VIP
trivia night.
Mr. Dice, would you like to speak?
Yeah,
Yes.
BW3s.
So, the system's called Power School, and it is replacing Progress Book. The key to that was, and the office staff so far has really confirmed it. They really like Power School. It's a lot more flexible, the flexibility, how quickly they can get to information or change information or update information. We've got a lot of positive feedback on it, so very encouraging that we made the right choice so far. We are going to be training our teachers right before school starts, so the teachers will learn how to use the attendance and the grade book, and take lunch count at the elementary and in the middle school. And we are going to probably hold off about 2 more weeks before we release it to parents. We want to make sure that our staff is very comfortable with the system before we start getting a bunch of calls from parents or trying to help parents through it. So we want to get up to speed a little bit, and then we'll reach parents. We made the assumption that parents probably aren't in there checking grades and stuff the first week or two of school. So it's kind of a little bit of down period, so we're giving ourselves the grace to kind of get it adopted and ready for parents.
So this is just for grades, schedules?
Everything will be in here. It's owned by the same company that, well, Power School owns Schoology. So the integration between the two is much tighter than our previous tool. Also, the enrollment tool we use is owned by Schoology. The HR tool we use is owned by Schoology, or I'm sorry, is owned by Power School. So we're actually, by adopting, Power School is the parent company, but their student information, which everything plugs into, we had all of this stuff and we had progress books, so it was like, it wasn't plugging in as well. And so now the connectors.
Call that integration.
The integration, there you go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you,
You're
Mr.
welcome,
Culp.
Chris.
Exactly.
The pros call it.
So the integration is much higher level,
Chris.
quicker, more consistent. And so we're excited to see where it goes. I mean, obviously we're having a learning curve and we're getting through all the hoops that we have to get through to get it onboarded. The data migration went well, but with any data migration, we're always learning lessons as we get it over there. But it's going well, and we're excited to kind of get the year kicked off with it.
Is there any talk of is there like a training that's going to be necessary? Because we're going to continue to receive the email updates that we already received.
Yeah, Parent Square.
Parent
Yeah,
Square,
see, it's
so many.
it's like trivia night, but for
really
technology, isn't it? Yeah.
Okay, so we'll continue to receive Parent Square, and then Power School will be where we check for.
Yes.
So, has there been discussion around like a webinar or something that if people wanted? I don't want to.
We have already started building. Jessica Fields has been working with building some of that collateral that we're going to share with parents, and this is part of it. So we do want to make sure they have the resources to get and use the tools. So Parent Square is what we're sending the communication through. Schoology at grades 4 and above is kind of the learning management system that holding all the learning, and Power School is where all the grades, attendance, report cards. That's where all that's kept. Yeah.
Chris, let me ask, all jokes aside, it's your sense, I'm guessing though, that like, for example, the parent interface is going to be rather simple in terms of it's not a heavy lift.
Yeah, a lot of times we talk about, when did you go to Facebook training? When do you go to Twitter training? Like, people don't, this is just another system, and we do need to offer training. People are going to have questions, and we want to make sure we answer those. But a lot of it's intuitive. And so the majority of our parents, we think, are just going to click into it and go, oh, tap this, tap
I like
that.
Katie's idea, whether it's, and maybe give, you could do it virtually.
Correct.
And you could do one during the day and one in the evening.
Yeah.
And then see.
Yeah. So we've already scheduled with the principals on the open house nights. We're going to have a table set up for parents to stop by if they want to stop by, and that's where we'll have some printouts and things if they need them. Yeah. All right.
Is that what you use?
Yes,
Okay. And,
Power School?
I mean, what are your thoughts?
I love it.
Okay. Molly, is that what you use?
Mm-hmm.
Ann?
I don't like it.
Oh,
I don't like anything. It's fine. No, it's just,
okay.
no. No, I'm like,
I
it's
love
a,
it by contrast, I'll say. I think it was much better than what we were using previously.
And you were probably using what we've been using.
I think so.
Yeah. That's the prevailing view. I've never heard anyone say something disparate from what you just said.
What's the grades?
Yeah, right.
No reason for executive session tonight, I believe. So do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right, Beth, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Bodie?
Aye.
Mrs. Gephardt?
Aye.
Mr. Gousset?
Aye.
Mrs. Matney?
Aye.
Ms. Wassman?
Aye.